pawn shop at the age of 9. Corey learned enough to become a partner alongside his father and his late.
Corey Harrison seemed to have it all on Pawn Stars: fame, money, and a family business worth millions. But behind the cameras, his life was crumbling in ways no one saw coming. By the age of 26, Corey was already fighting for his life in ways that had nothing to do with the pawn shop. By 30, he was making decisions that shocked even his family. Secrets, failed relationships, and deep family tragedies weighed on him, eventually breaking him. What happened next would change everything, and it's worse than you think. Corey Harrison was born on April 27, 1983, in Las Vegas. His family already owned the famous gold and silver pawn shop, which his grandfather co-founded and his parents, Rick and Kim, ran. From the moment he was born, Corey wasn't just a regular kid in a regular family. He was raised in the very business that would later become one of the most well-known pawn shops in the world. While Las Vegas was known for its neon lights and casinos, Corey grew up surrounded by the low hum of deals, appraisals, and family drama brewing behind the counter. By the time Corey was 9, he wasn't watching cartoons like most kids. Instead, he was polishing jewelry, organizing shelves, and watching his father and grandfather closely. They didn't just teach him how to spot gold or silver. They taught him how to read people, their tells, their tricks, and the stories they told with their actions. Corey learned early on that understanding people was just as important as understanding what something was worth. By the age of 12, he was already handling real sales. Some adult customers didn't even realize they were being managed by a kid. And when they left with less money than they expected, Corey knew he'd nailed it. By 13, Corey could identify rare coins, military items, and vintage guitars with an accuracy that even surprised the seasoned staff. He had a natural gift for spotting authenticity. The shop staff started calling it the eye. It wasn't magic, it was years of observation, learning, and hands-on experience. By the time Corey hit 16, he was making big decisions, even when those decisions clashed with his father's. Most of the time, he turned out to be right, but those conflicts only added tension to the already strained family dynamics. Growing up in the spotlight of his family business was not easy. Corey wasn't just Rick and Kim's son. He was the future of the shop, and that expectation weighed heavily on him. His father, Rick, was tough on him, demanding more than anyone else in the shop, making it clear that family connections meant nothing unless he proved himself. The old man, his grandfather, was equally demanding, and the constant pressure, combined with the public nature of their work, was taking a toll on Corey. Every family disagreement about a deal or decision was aired in front of the staff and customers, making private issues public. By 17, Corey was already feeling the weight of it all. He began to push back against his family's expectations, but that only fueled the fire. Those tensions would later spill over into the show, making for some of Pawn Stars' most memorable moments. The nickname Big Hoss didn't come out of nowhere. At 16, Corey was already 6 feet tall and over 400 pounds. His size made him hard to miss, but it was his growing leadership skills that made the name stick. Rick started calling him Big Hoss, not as a joke, but because he was becoming a boss in the shop. Customers started asking for him directly, recognizing his ability to make quick decisions. Employees older than him began to respect his judgment. The name Big Hoss was no longer just about his size, it was about his presence. As his role in the shop grew, so did the responsibility. By the time he was a teenager, Corey was already managing parts of the business, balancing high-dollar purchases, inventory, and negotiations, all while still in high school. The gold and silver pawn shop employed over 30 people, many of whom were older and more experienced than Corey. Yet he was constantly pushed to prove himself, taking on more and more responsibility, while his peers were attending high school dances and hanging out at the mall. Corey was learning what it took to run a business from the ground up, and the pressure was starting to show. The first time Corey made a big purchase without getting approval from Rick or the old man, it caused a major blow-up. Corey had a habit of buying things he liked: classic cars, motorcycles, rare collectibles. Some purchases paid off, but others raised eyebrows. Rick and the old man didn't always agree with his choices.
Strong, man. I guess History Channel finally wised up and pulled the new episodes.
And the public arguments were loud and frequent. These moments of conflict were as much a part of the show as the deals themselves, adding to the tension and drama. Corey wasn't afraid to take risks, even when things went wrong. And when it did, he stood by his decisions, even if it meant taking the heat. Corey made the decision early on to forego the traditional path of education. While his classmates were cramming for exams, Corey was learning how to identify Civil War swords and test the purity of gold. He missed out on typical teenage experiences, but the trade-off was a skill set few people his age would ever develop. Corey didn't have a diploma from a fancy school, but he could instantly tell you the value of a 19th century musket. That specialized knowledge paid off when Pawn Stars became a hit, giving Corey the platform to showcase his unique expertise. But being the boss at such a young age came with challenges. Many employees had been working at the shop since before Corey was born, and now he was their manager. Some resented taking orders from someone younger. Corey had to work twice as hard to prove he deserved their respect. He brought in fresh ideas, streamlined the inventory, and expanded the shop floor to 15,000 square feet. One of his smartest moves was hiring his longtime friend Austin Russell, better known as Chumley. At the time, no one realized how important that decision would be in shaping the show's chemistry. Despite the struggles, Corey built a team that worked both for the business and the cameras, balancing the demands of running a real pawn shop with performing for millions of viewers. At first glance, Pawn Stars seemed like just another over-the-top reality show where action felt real. The people were tough, and justice always prevailed. But behind the wild chases and tough guy image was a much darker reality, one of lawsuits, family betrayal, scandal, and financial ruin. In 2011, Bobby Brown, one of the key figures on the show, filed a lawsuit that revealed shocking details. He claimed that despite appearing in over 40 episodes, he was paid just $6,000 in total, roughly $150 per episode. This amount seemed ridiculously low, especially considering the show made over $400 million. Brown accused the network of making empty promises and complained that he passed on real business opportunities, thinking the show would be his financial security, but it wasn't. What made this even more explosive was the timing. This lawsuit followed right after Dog's 2007 racial slur scandal that almost led to the show's cancellation. It seemed like the cracks in the perfect TV family image were finally starting to show. But Brown didn't stop there. He claimed that the entire show was essentially fabricated. While Dog and his crew were presented as the heroes, Brown alleged that he was the one actually doing the hard work, digging through records, building strategies, and planning each move. He spent up to 50 hours preparing for each capture, sometimes delaying arrests just to ensure there was enough footage for the cameras. This revelation turned the entire narrative upside down. Instead of Dog being the mastermind, Brown painted himself as the quiet professional behind the scenes, underpaid and ignored, while someone else took the credit. Then came the bizarre case of Tim Youngblood Chapman. In 2008, Tim was arrested for allegedly being caught in a shopping center parking lot,
in a wheelchair, and that was more than a little bit annoying.
Engaged in inappropriate behavior. Security guards claimed he sped off in his truck, nearly hitting someone. He was charged with indecent exposure and even terroristic threatening. His lawyer explained it away as a misunderstanding. Tim had spilled orange juice on his pants, was changing in his car, and didn't realize anyone could see through the tinted windows. At the time, he had just moved out of his house and was living in his vehicle. Although Tim was later acquitted, the incident left a stain on his reputation and added to the growing list of scandals involving the Pawn Stars cast. And then, the money began to run out. After Beth, Dog's wife and business partner, passed away from throat cancer in 2019, everything began to unravel. Dog openly admitted in an interview that he was broke. The mounting medical bills, combined with the financial strain of supporting his large family, had taken a toll. The tax authorities came knocking too, hard. Dog owed over $1.5 million in tax liens, both federally and in states like Colorado and Hawaii. There were 17 liens dating back as far as the 1990s. One of the worst came in 2009, when Hawaii hit him with a $1.8 million lien, and another in Colorado for nearly $800,000. By 2022, Dog had to sell his massive mansion in Colorado for $1.59 million just to pay off his debts. This was the same house that had been featured on the show, now sold to settle his financial troubles. Despite all of this, Dog claimed he was doing his best to make things right, but the numbers just kept piling up. Then came September 2019, when Dog faced yet another health crisis. After experiencing crushing chest pain, he was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was chilling: pulmonary embolism. Blood clots had traveled to his lungs, putting his life in immediate danger. At 66 years old, Dog's decades of heavy smoking had finally caught up with him. He'd started smoking at the age of 12, going through 3.5 packs a day. On the Dr. Oz show, the warning was clear: he was a ticking time bomb. Dog, who had always claimed not to fear death, found himself face to face with it. For the first time, he admitted that he was scared. It was a wake-up call that forced him to change. He started taking blood thinners, cut back on smoking, altered his diet, and made an effort to take better care of himself. 2 years later, Dog did the unexpected. He got married again. On September 2nd, 2021, he married Francie Frayne, a Colorado rancher who had also lost her spouse to cancer. Their connection began when Dog called Francie to hire her late husband for a job, unaware he had passed away. Grief brought them together, and their romance quickly blossomed. But their wedding wasn't without its share of drama. Dog's daughters, Bonnie and Cecily, didn't attend the ceremony. Rumors of racism and abuse swirled in the media, although Dog denied these accusations. After the wedding, Dog and Francie launched a new project, a Christian ministry called Light Up the Darkness. This marked a dramatic transformation for Dog. Instead of chasing criminals, he was now focused on saving souls. In his 2024 memoir, 9 Lives and Counting, Dog reflected on his journey, explaining that while he still hunted fugitives, he was also dedicated to helping the broken and lost find Jesus. It was a full-circle moment. The bounty hunter had evolved into a preacher.
Computer systems, and he doesn't know how to use one. So
In October 2018, Corey Harrison and his ex-wife Kiki welcomed a son, Richard Benjamin Harrison, named after Corey's grandfather, the iconic old man from Pawn Stars, who had passed away just 4 months earlier. The timing was emotionally complicated. Though legally divorced, they had just become parents again. Rumors of a possible reunion began circulating when Corey posted a photo of a tattooed wrist with the name Harrison and a romantic caption. However, nothing was ever confirmed, and soon they stopped appearing on each other's social media accounts. Things didn't get easier for Corey. In October 2020, he rented a 37-foot RV from William Villafana through RV Share, agreeing to return it after 3 days. However, he kept it for 6. When the RV was finally returned, it was a wreck. The body was damaged, the awning destroyed, and the interior was covered in empty bottles, sand, and smashed eggs. Villafana estimated the damage at between $20,000 and $30,000. The shop had to cancel several bookings, leaving a severe impact on his business during the already difficult pandemic. Despite his substantial net worth of $2.6 million, Corey reportedly refused to take responsibility for the damage. Villafana was forced to file a complaint with the North Las Vegas Police Department and pursue insurance claims. Corey's representative claimed the RV's pop-outs wouldn't retract and suggested they had insurance. However, this didn't explain the state of the interior. The dispute dragged on, adding to the mounting tensions in Corey's life. Then came the DUI arrest. On September 8, 2023, police stopped Corey in his white Ford F-250 near Main Street and Charleston Boulevard in Las Vegas. He had been swerving in and out of the bike lane. Corey, returning from filming in Minnesota, was less than a mile from his apartment. When asked to stop, he presented his ID and blamed the swerving on his truck pulling to the right. However, the officer noticed his bloodshot eyes and the strong smell of alcohol. Corey failed the field sobriety test and agreed to a breath test. But when they arrived at the Las Vegas City Jail, the breathalyzer machine was broken. Instead, a blood sample was taken. Corey later told reporters that he was frustrated with the broken equipment, claiming he had only had one drink during his flight, none after landing. The blood test results were never disclosed. He was booked at 2:28 a.m. and released about 8 hours later, vowing to hire a lawyer and fight the charges. Corey's grandfather, Richard Harrison, better known as the Old Man on Pawn Stars, passed away on June 25, 2018, at 77. What fans didn't know was that he had been battling Parkinson's disease for years, a private struggle that he kept hidden from the public. In 2017, just as the show was reaching new heights, Richard retired quietly, marking the beginning of the end of an era. For fans, his passing seemed sudden, but for his family, it had been a long, slow goodbye.
Just come back to work, kid. I'm sorry, chum, I'm sorry.
Rick Harrison paid tribute to his father on social media the same day, calling him his friend, father, teacher, and hero. The heartfelt post reached over 245,000 people, all feeling the grief in Rick's words. The Gold and Silver Pawn Shop released a statement confirming Richard passed peacefully, surrounded by loved ones. But no one was truly prepared for the loss. The shop had always been about 3 generations working side by side, but now they were down to 2. Then came another blow. On January 19, 2024, Rick's youngest son, Adam Harrison, was found dead in a Las Vegas guest house at just 39 years old. He had been missing since January 17th, and when concerned neighbors checked, they found Adam unresponsive. His cause of death, confirmed by the coroner on February 29, 2024, was fentanyl and methamphetamine toxicity. His death was ruled accidental. The drug combination is one of the deadliest in the U.S. today, contributing to the opioid crisis. Rick spoke out passionately about the fentanyl epidemic, criticizing the lack of action to stop the flow of drugs into the country. Adam had become yet another victim of this crisis, a growing problem that claimed lives every day. Corey, Rick's other son, had faced his own struggles long before Adam's death. In August 2014, during a motorcycle tour with Hot Bike magazine, Corey stopped by a bar in Jefferson City, Missouri. After partying for 7 nights straight, he continued drinking, shot after shot, despite not eating all day. By the time he reached the second bar, he was already stumbling. The bar owner remembered watching Corey walk in and realizing things weren't going well. At around 11:20 p.m., things took a turn for the worse. Corey, intoxicated, pulled down his pants and urinated on a bar stool in front of everyone. Security cameras caught the incident, and Corey even posed for photos while doing it. When confronted, he threw a bar stool at the owner, who pinned him against the wall and had him thrown out. The incident went viral, and witnesses described his behavior as loud, reckless, and out of control. He seemed oblivious to the embarrassment of it all, showing no shame for his actions. In 2024, new concerns arose about Corey's physical health. Fans noticed his posture in Pawn Stars was off, with a noticeable slouch. Speculation grew, especially since Corey had been in a motorcycle accident in 2014, where he broke his arm, back, and foot. At 41, it appeared his physical condition was catching up with him. Although the family never directly addressed the issue, it added another layer of complexity to Corey's already tumultuous life. Corey's role at the pawn shop began to shift. Despite still holding the title of co-owner, Pawn Stars was no longer filming. The History Channel didn't renew the contract, and Rick mentioned the possibility of a Pawn Stars reboot. Corey, however, made it clear he wouldn't be part of it. He said he was done pretending to be 23 when he was now 41. After filming wrapped in June 2024, Corey made a significant decision. He moved to Tulum, Mexico. When asked about it, he explained that he was ready for a change and wished everyone luck.
Feeling more comfortable with exercise, and the next thing I know, I was boxing 5 days.
In Mexico, Corey is now focusing on a new venture, a barbecue restaurant called Big Hoss's Smoke and Joint. It's a complete departure from his life on TV. After 16 years of fame, he's left behind the pawn shop and is starting fresh. It's a new chapter for Corey, one where he's embracing a quieter, more meaningful life.